Hello and welcome to the big picture. The Supreme Court's interim order rejecting Aadhaar as being compulsory to avail social benefits like subsidy on the LPG gas cylinders threatens to throw into disarray many government schemes which were to be based on Aadhaar. The Apex Court also refused to modify its order despite the pleas of the government on Tuesday, as it felt that there are many issues which require consideration, as it was a double-edged problem. This has put the entire Aadhaar system under scrutiny all over again. The opponents of Aadhaar have raised many issues in the past, including lack of legislative sanction and fears of invasion of privacy, among others. However, the government has been relying on it to improve the distribution systems and also in direct cash benefit transfers. The distribution of gas cylinders and the subsidy scheme under it has already been in operation for several months now, with 76% of the consumers already registered. Today we will look at how the Apex Court's order jeopardizes the various government schemes and the beneficiaries, and whether the Aadhaar cards will have any value in future. To discuss this, I have with me Biraj Patnaik, Principal Advisor to the Commissioners to the Supreme Court on Right to Vote, TNR Rao, former Secretary, Ministry of Petroleum and Natural Gas, Government of India, and Jyoti Mukul, Energy Editor, Business Standard. Welcome to all of you. First, let me go to Biraj. Biraj, you think this order of the Supreme Court, does it does jeopardize as far as the LPG gas cylinders are concerned, but is it going to jeopardize the Right to Food program and other social security programs of the Government of India?
No, I think, Girish, there are two parts to this order. I think the bit about it not being mandatory is still okay, because I think government should have projected this as a right to identity issue rather than as something that they were forcing down on people. Because after all, we work with the urban population, and I know how difficult it is. The fact that most of the urban poor in this country don't have any form of identification.
Right.
And Aadhaar was emerging as by far the easiest card to have. That number to have.
One second, Biraj. No, yeah. You're talking only urban poor. Yeah. What about the rural poor? Even the rural poor in many, far fetched areas, they don't have any identity. In fact, recently, even the minister, Jairam Ramesh, was talking about how in many places in the rural areas, they don't have this card.
But you see, Girish, in rural areas, I'm not so worried, because people have voter cards, the panchayats can issue temporary identity cards. There are multiple forms of identity. You have caste certificates, you have school leaving certificates, because you're located in one place for a very long time. However, for urban areas, it's particularly a larger issue. But I think there is one part of the Supreme Court order which I think, with due respect, is very retrograde. And that is the Supreme Court insisting that Aadhaar should be issued only to citizens of the country.
Right.
Now, I think that completely defeats the purpose of the card, because please remember that the Aadhaar number was not about citizenship. It was for all residents.
Right.
Most of our welfare schemes say residents, including the food security bill.
Absolutely.
Because the moment you say citizen, the practical implication is that if you are a Bengali migrant and you come to Delhi to work, there's a bigger chance of you're being harassed by the police on accusations of being a Bangladeshi and not getting that card, or in border areas there's going to be a large scale exclusion. So I think this aspect of the order is something that I am deeply unhappy about, and I think it's very retrograde. But I would not lay the blame on the Supreme Court as much as I would lay the blame on the government's dilly-dallying on Aadhaar. This was a great idea. It was an idea which had transformative potential simply because it allowed entitlement portability.
Right.
A national database or an online national system linked to, say, the food security scheme. Now, it need not have been Aadhaar. It can be anything. It can be the RSBY card. It could be any platform.
No,
but there was a potential that a poor person could carry their entitlement with them. Now, that will get jeopardized.
No, in fact, the citizenship issue is going to become quite a major problem, because many people, how do they prove their citizenship? That's another major problem because, so many people
Absolutely.
don't have their date, birth
Absolutely.
certificate or things like that. There are millions of people who don't have a birth certificate in this country. Anyway, I'll come back to you, Mr. Rao.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think Girish...
Okay, I'll come back to you, Biraj. Mr. Rao, this is directly affecting one of the schemes which is going to directly affect and is already will start affecting from today maybe is this distribution of gas cylinders and the direct subsidy and the subsidy which the cylinders are LPG cylinders are supposed to get. The government claims that in the court the government was claiming that 76% of the consumers of LPG have already been registered and they are already getting this subsidy back into their bank accounts through the Aadhaar. You think we will have major problems now on this?
No, you see, I just don't understand because what is critical to the transfer of subsidy on LPG cylinders is the bank account, not Aadhaar card.
Yes, bank account, the bank account number.
Yes,
yes.
You must have a bank account so that the subsidy can be transferred to your bank account.
Right.
Now, it is not necessary you should get the bank account only through Aadhaar. Under the KYC norms, you have got about half a dozen documents which you can submit and get a bank account.
Right.
So, I don't understand why by saying that it is Aadhaar linked, I mean, it's very difficult to understand. I have a bank account which is not Aadhaar linked.
First let me get you straight on this. You think that this linking Aadhaar to the LPG gas distribution was not a great idea? Is that what you're trying to say?
See, the critical thing is a bank account, not Aadhaar card.
Right.
That is how you transfer the benefit.
Mr. Rao, one of the arguments being made by the Petroleum Ministry and the UID officials as far as LPG distribution is concerned is that there have been several cases. Thousands and thousands of people have double gas connections, have misused this. Through Aadhaar, they have been able to find many of them and they have been able to cancel it, because of which they have been able to save a lot of subsidy. What do you have to say to that?
No, that I agree. Identification is, that part I agree. Now, but when you already have a bank account,
right,
which is based on various KYC norms, what you said may apply to those people who did not have a bank account,
right,
and therefore they were asked to produce Aadhaar.
Right.
But still, I consider that was not necessary. If you
but the subsidies has to go back. It's going to go in a bank account.
Bank account only.
There is no cash which is going to be given to anybody.
Absolutely. So the critical thing in the chain is the bank account.
Bank account.
How you get the bank account? That KYC norms say that is how you get the bank. Now, for the second point which you made, in fact, you raised it now itself. What this the bogus consumers.
Right.
I hear very reliably. This needs to be verified. In the south especially,
right,
thousands and thousands of accounts have been opened by the banks and the oil companies without the knowledge of the consumer.
This is a completely new scandal.
No, whatever it is, I don't know, it must be verified whether it's going to become a scandal.
Yes.
Maybe it is elementary that without an application, without your signature, a bank account cannot be opened.
Right.
Even though it is DBT, whatever it is, it goes against the RBI norms.
Absolutely.
Now, but this is what I hear. Now, apparently, if the banks have colluded with the oil companies or the dealers to open accounts, which doesn't have an applicant's application, even though of course he may be entitled, he may have an account, he may not have an account, this raises doubts whether precisely the point you made about bogus accounts, the bogus consumers are being legitimized by the opening of these bogus accounts.
But you're opening up a completely new.
Absolutely, that's what I'm saying.
This is a completely new thing because this has not come to the public notice so far.
Not come. This is already the talk. In fact, the information I got is very reliable. That is why I want this to be checked.
Okay. We will come to that. We are joined now by Shailaja Chandra, former Chief Secretary of the Government of Delhi. Welcome to the show, Shailaja ji. You think that this order of the Supreme Court, interim order, saying that you don't have to link Aadhaar, is it something you think that is going to affect the government schemes, Shailaja Chandra?
Yes, it will affect the government schemes because when Aadhaar was announced and people were made to go and queue up,
right,
there was a frustration that, oh no, not another time do we have to get it. Now they have got used to the idea, and to suddenly have that, the grass, you know, chopped from under your feet is very, very unnerving for people. They don't know what to expect. But what I do feel is that this Aadhaar business, I know it's not part of your focus, but one must realize that the population register was part of the Citizens Act and rules.
Yes.
This did not have any act and rules, no statutory backing. Only the cabinet has now approved that the bill may go to parliament.
Only yesterday. Only
Yes,
yesterday.
and if it goes to standing committee or it does not go to standing committee, the fact of the matter is that 50% of the work is being still done by the population register people, and 50% by these people, the UID.
Right.
And ultimately, what I hear, just as Mr. Rao was talking about what he hears, what I have heard, which is very, very shocking, this is a business model which is going to give huge benefits to three kinds of entities. The first entity are the telecom companies, because they will have a lot of mobile coming and going. Secondly, this iris business is not being done anywhere in the world as a double check. You have fingerprints, but you don't have the iris for this kind of a thing. This seems to be something to benefit the companies who have made this kind of technology.
The reliability of the iris scan has been under question for quite some time now.
Quite right.
Okay. So but you think that some of the schemes, see, because the government is relying, the Delhi government especially has launched this direct cash benefit transfer scheme for many, for even for right to food also comes under that. So all these schemes are, they were relying on the Aadhaar card to transfer cash benefits to all these things. So you think they'll all be affected?
I think they will be affected, and I think that it was not such a good idea, because there are a large number of migrants, and there is no way that UID can check on the migrant status and the citizenship status. So in a way, you are giving a bonanza to lots of people because they are poor, but that doesn't mean that the taxpayer should be paying for everyone who comes under UID without verification of citizenship. I think the Supreme Court has been absolutely bang on, and it is a bit scary, because this migration thing is not confined to Delhi, it is countrywide.
Absolutely countrywide, but there is also a counter view. Before you came, I think Biraj Patnaik, who is also on the show, expressed concerns about having citizenship criteria. We'll come back to that. I'm sure Biraj would like to reply to you. Before that, Jyoti, it's becoming more and more complicated now. So you think, where does the government the other day went before the court and pleaded that please allow at least the LPG gas cylinders not to get delinked with Aadhaar, but the court has been pretty tough on them. Now what? How does the Petroleum Ministry tackle this problem now?
See, at the moment, the Aadhaar number and its seeding with bank accounts and seeding with dealers, that's a two seeding which is required for getting the benefit, is only for the subsidy and not for getting the cylinder. So only anybody can get a cylinder and a new connection.
Even if we have to transfer or change our address and things like that, now they are asking for Aadhaar.
No, Aadhaar is one of the identity proofs which you can give for availing a cylinder benefit. It's not compulsory to give Aadhaar.
Okay.
Aadhaar is compulsory in those districts where DBT has been launched for availing subsidy.
Right.
Now, as far as these districts are concerned, the penetration of Aadhaar was not complete when the program was launched. Similarly, the seeding of Aadhaar numbers with the bank account was not complete before the program.
In the court, the ministry and the government claimed that 76% of the entire country's gas consumers have been registered.
Now that is because it was made mandatory, and a 3-month grace period was given.
Right.
So what happened at the end of the 3 months is that people who did not get this Aadhaar number or did not get their seeding done with the dealer and the bank accounts stopped getting subsidy. So it was by way of compulsion.
That has already started, that people are not getting subsidy, those who don't have this.
In the first 19 districts where the scheme was launched in the first phase itself, have stopped getting subsidy where because the 3-month period has already expired.
Where they have not been able to seed their Aadhaar number with the bank account.
Yeah, that happened in August end, so
Right.
which went maybe quietly unnoticed. In fact, there is a wide confusion among people whether Aadhaar is mandatory or not.
Absolutely.
And because of these various schemes riding on Aadhaar number and different state governments doing different things, there is a confusion among citizens whether you need to get Aadhaar or not. And when the number was itself launched, most people were under this impression that it's a voluntary exercise. But it seems now that for every other thing you need to get Aadhaar.
Right. So, so you think that has the Petroleum Ministry thought of how to handle this problem? Because their plea in the court was that if you do this, they're telling the court that if you do this, the whole system will collapse. There is no other way in which we can transfer the subsidy.
I do not agree with this viewpoint simply because subsidy to the consumers is available in other districts where DBT has not been launched.
It is available.
Yeah, of course. People who say live in Delhi or in areas where LPG subsidy on 9 cylinders is available and DBT program has not been launched, they are getting even before 1st June.
So, as Mr. Rao rightly pointed out, what is necessary is a bank account and not an Aadhaar card.
No, I do not agree with that because a bank account may be there, but for authentication, for establishing that you are a genuine customer and you are not duplicating.
You are not duplicating.
Aadhaar is necessary
Yes.
in that sense because it has biometrics, you can't duplicate it.
But I have a figure here which says that in 19 districts which were launched, they've already detected 45,000 duplicate gas connections.
Yeah, actually the deduplication exercise preceded the launch of DBT in Aadhaar, and Aadhaar.
Right, right.
So in that sense, Ministry of Petroleum and all marketing companies were able to detect some of the bogus connections and all this duplication or false residence proof, because if you remember last year itself, there was a Know Your Customer campaign which was launched, and it was made compulsory for LPG consumers to go and submit their identification proof to the dealers.
Right.
So a lot of effort was put into this deduplication exercise prior to launching of DBT.
Right.
So in that sense, this was taken care of. But I don't think that in the districts where it is launched, suddenly everything will come to a standstill. Because
it won't collapse.
No, because subsidy through the dealer can always be given as it was being given, and it is being given for over past so many decades.
Okay, Mr. Rao, the other argument is, I mean, I'm still not clear what your views on the Aadhaar itself is. No, as far as linking to the, I'm not talking of just linking to the LPG thing, but Aadhaar itself.
Yeah, generally. See, if you look at that, having said that Aadhaar is voluntary, it cannot be made compulsory by backdoor methods.
It has been made compulsory. Now there is a very interesting thing which came out yesterday in the court while the arguments were going on. Once somebody pointed out that in Bombay High Court, the judges and the people working in Bombay High Court, they have been told that salaries will not come if they don't give the Aadhaar number.
This is what I am saying. That is, in substance, common sense. You can't say that it is voluntary and then by these methods you make it compulsory.
Right.
Number 2, I have an Aadhaar card, you have an Aadhaar card, and a BPL family has an Aadhaar card.
Right.
What has that to do with entitlement? Entitlement, for example, I am not entitled to food subsidy, but the BPL person is entitled to food subsidy.
Right.
Now, if you say Aadhaar is just for an identity, the entitlement must be decided by some other means.
Yes.
By a primary inquiry or a field inquiry, whatever it is. So, it is, I mean, I am still unable to connect how Aadhaar is a must. As an ID, yes, you can have it. I also agree it should not be for nothing to do with citizenship. Anybody can have, any person here in this country can have an ID, it doesn't confer citizenship rights. And to say that only citizenship should be given, again it defeats the very purpose of giving an ID.
Absolutely. I think we'll, Biraj wants to explain. Yes, Biraj.
Yeah. No, let me tell you that, look, it's absolutely right that Aadhaar does not determine your entitlement. Mr. Rao is entirely right in saying that. The entitlement, now for instance on food subsidy, the entitlement is decided on the basis of what the Right to Food Act says, the National Food Security Act says, which says 75% of rural poor, and there is a separate census for that, the SECC, that determines it. Now, Aadhaar comes in two ways. Firstly, there is no great implication as far as the food security bill is concerned, because even in the food security bill, linking it to Aadhaar was one of the recommendations made as part of the PDS reforms, which was not mandatory on the states. But I would think, my view on this was, and a lot of activists completely disagree with me, particularly the Right to Food campaign completely disagrees with me. But my view is that any system which is operates in real time, is online, and can authenticate the beneficiary, which is linked to a network of PDS shops, is desirable because it gives you entitlement portability. Now, Chhattisgarh, for instance, under the core PDS program, they have not used Aadhaar, they have used the RSBY platform. Now, Mr. Rao may ask that if the RSBY platform is being used there, why don't we use it across the country? Now, that is where the crux of the matter is. The question is not what card you use. The benefit of having an Aadhaar number as a uniform number for all schemes was simply that you can ride on this platform without duplicating and putting in government money for vendor-driven, state governments coming up with vendor-driven programs for each of the schemes, which would be hugely expensive. The whole idea of Aadhaar was having one identity number and creating multiple platforms which ride on the deduplication system created by Aadhaar. And that was the benefit that was there. But now the problem is...
The problem, Biraj, is that, you know,
the problem is the
NPR. No, you have to address what Shailaja Chandra earlier was talking about, the NPR. NPR coming in conflict, UIDI, you know, this has complicated matters further.
Shailaja ji is absolutely right on this, and the government is completely responsible for this mess. The policy paralysis that affected the UPA is led to this impasse, because firstly, this was an idea that the UPA government had brought about, so it should have been backed by all parties within the government. But then you had a 10-month delay, a fight between Home Ministry and UIDI, which derailed the entire program. Then government was, you know, once the standing committee had given its report, government should have gone ahead with this legislation. They should have taken on board the comments and done something about this legislation. But they slept over it for the last 1.5 years. So what do you expect? Now, when you make a mess of it like you have done, the ham-handed manner in which, you know, it just goes on to say that here's a good idea or potentially a good idea. There were concerns, there were security concerns. They could have been taken care of. You don't take care of them. You don't listen to the activists. And you go about it in such a ham-handed way that the UIDI is completely stranded now. It's in a way nobody's baby.
Absolutely. Yes, Shailaja Chandra, thousands of crores have been spent on this project. Now, is there a danger of this whole project getting completely jeopardized? And what will happen to all those people who have got the Aadhaar card and were thinking that now, from now onwards, you don't have to bother about identity proof?
No, Aadhaar can continue to be used, but it cannot be used in a mandatory, compulsory fashion. And I would like to say 3 things on this. First, the assumption is that the minute cash or benefits go to the correct beneficiary, there will be improvement and progress. That is not necessarily true. I am aware that in Delhi, people are selling the benefits within hours of getting them. How are you going to stop that? It's not reaching the stomachs of the children. It is just being, because ready cash is more important. Secondly, the issue arises about, you know, there is an outsourcing. UID is nothing more than an outsourcing. Ultimately, the population register should have done this work, but what I am told is that the outsourcing has been done in such a manner that hardly a handful of companies would qualify to become the outsourced agents, which drives up the costs enormously. Finally, I would like to say that the citizenship issue should not be brushed aside, because The population register gives the authority under law to ask a lot of invasive questions, which is to determine citizenship. And citizenship is a very complex issue.
Absolutely.
Your heart may bleed for the poor, but citizenship has many, many implications from the security, law and order, public order, lots of issues.
Absolutely.
And they must not be brushed aside in this woolly way, trying to just appease people who are poor as a vote bank. I think Aadhaar has been a huge mistake in not thinking things through. The population register should have been allowed to offload this to make an identity card.
It's too late. It's too late. It's too late, Shailaja Chandra.
Right.
It's too late. You know,
being done
hundreds and
under
thousands of crores have already been put into this thing. Yes, Biraj, quickly, before I go to Mr. Rao, quickly.
No, very quickly, Girish. Yeah, very, very quickly, Girish. I think, whether the poor are selling their benefits or not has nothing to do with Aadhaar. It has nothing to do with Aadhaar.
It has to do with benefits, whether the benefits have reached.
No, but that is an independent question. What the poor do with their benefits once they receive it has nothing to do with any authentication process that you do.
Okay.
Number one. Number two, I don't think the NPR was an NDA idea.
Right.
The entire idea of NPR was security.
Right.
UID was not about security. It was a developmental idea.
Yes, but
the
the problem
is UID was based.
But
was
Biraj,
not security. It was NPR.
But Biraj, as far as UID was concerned, the same type of concerns which were raised as far as the NPR was concerned has been raised in the case of UIDI, and as Shailaja Chandra was rightly pointing out, it is, these three agencies, three private entities are now involved. There are a lot of, issues of privacy and also security, private security
Girish,
being
that is exactly what the legislation could have addressed.
No, the legislation is supposed to come now. We will wait and see. Yes, Mr. Rao, quickly. See, this whole Aadhaar was meant to one give identity to the person. Second, eliminate. They think that it will eliminate corruption.
Yes.
It will eliminate leakages.
Yes, correct.
Right?
Yes, that's
so
true.
you think that these two things at least will be they will be able to achieve through this Aadhaar.
No, identification, that part is fine.
Right.
So it's non-duplication, that part is fine.
Right.
And to say that this is the only method to eliminate this what we call transmission loss is not true, because ultimately, as I said, you are going through a bank. Now we see, as she explained, she clarified, there is electronic trading of these benefits. See, you take this modern technology, you want to trade these benefits.
Okay, I think we are completely, yes, Jyoti, last words to you. You think that, this entire scheme has gone into a jeopardy, or you think that this as far as the LPG is concerned?
I don't think that the scheme has has been jeopardized. One, the cabinet has cleared the bill. And it could be passed by parliament. So in that sense, it will have more legal sanctity. So those concerns can be taken care of. As far as the whole debate of whether it should be done only to citizens, there are a number of benefits which are available to any resident.
Yes.
You need not be a citizen to get those benefits. So in that sense, if you restrict it to citizens, you are being restrictive. Now, as far as security concerns and others, there are other means by which that can be taken care of. UID is not for security purpose. It's not a platform whereby you ensure that only Indian citizens and get that benefit.
Right.
So it's a misplaced fear, I would say.
So anyway, this is a fear which has been expressed even in the Supreme Court during the arguments. We will wait and watch, because this case has not ended. It is supposed to be taken up later this month by the Supreme Court, and when the Supreme Court comes out with its final order and what it thinks should be done, then we will have a better idea of what is going to happen to this entire Aadhaar scheme, and how it will either benefit or not benefit the people in future. We'll have to wait for the Supreme Court's final order. Thanks to all my guests, Shailaja Chandra, Biraj Patnaik, Mr. Rao and Jyoti Mukul. Please keep watching. We'll come back with another issue in Big Picture, same time tomorrow.